Hi everyone. Just for all of you who are not standing here like I am and will not have the opportunity, it's really cool. You should Anyway, I'm very proud to be standing here proposing what I believe is a wonderful motion, what we believe is something that is worth fighting for, and something that I think you will all agree with by the end of this round. And for the 11th time, the motion before this House was that this House believes that all democratic states should own their own broadcasting corporations, or rather, not all, but broadcasting corporations as plural. Now, we believe here that democracy stands for liberal market, and we believe that this is the basic reason, and this is the basic value that we're going to set in this motion, that stands above everything else and every other interest that may say that for some or other reason, the state should not own its own broadcasting corporations. I will show you this through my three arguments. They're going to be the liberal market protection argument. They're going to be the direct communication with the public argument. And finally, it's going to be the promotion of minority interest argument. Now, I'm going to primarily tell you where the problem lies, or what we see as currently something that is tipping the scale towards one or the other side. Or rather, what the scale is. The scale is that some people tend to believe that private corporations, private broadcasting corporations, are the only way to go and inform the public. Because they believe that the only way to protect public opinion is by ensuring that there is a free interest, that there is a free press, and there is freedom of press. And we say, yes, indeed, this is very important. But in order to protect this freedom of press, we need to have a different alternative that caters for the needs of the government. We, on the side of the proposition, believe that the government, as well as every other entity in the state, and especially the government, given that it is what now currently both rules the society and decides what the rules of the society are going to be, and fights for the interests of the society, and is the democratically elected government, should have an option of communicating directly with the public. Wouldn't you agree, sir? Yes?
Doesn't the press already intently listen to the government? Don't the politicians appear already daily on national television and in the newspapers and everywhere else?
Exactly. They do. But you see, we say that we have a problem with this. Why? Because we believe that the press tends to have a tendency towards sensationalism. That the press tends to have a tendency towards creating profit. So the press is not always free in the sense that it is directed by private interests, such as financial interests. And we believe that for those reasons, it may sometimes disregard something that's been going on with the government, or may sometimes decide to play something down. But this will be shown in my points. Now, basically what we say that by doing this, we're protecting the free market. How? We're going to allow people to choose to see, A, what is being broadcast in private TVs, and B, to see what is being broadcast by the government. We say that having the freedom of choosing between the information that you know is coming directly from the government on a form that is direct, rather than going through a different channel and that may be twisted in that way, and having the option of seeing that other form as well is better, because it does create better informed individuals who can then choose who and what to believe. We say that this is much better than the system that we may have if we just decide to ban all forms of public broadcasting companies, because in that way you don't get to hear the other side. And we believe that this is wrong. No, thank you. Now, secondly, why is direct communication with the public so important coming from the side of the government? Well, because the government sometimes has interests that it wants to promote, has made decisions that it wants to tone up or tone down. Sometimes when there are laws being brought up, sometimes the public tends to hear only what the private interests want them to see. And some particular places or some particular aspects within those laws or whatever legislation is being brought are played down, toned down, which may be beneficial for the public. And sometimes politicians tend to be judged over what they are rather than over what they do. And we believe that the private sector benefits from this, because this creates profit, because this is sensationalism that brings us to the wrong thing to do, and sometimes you need to have the option of letting the government actually actively communicate directly with the public and tell them what it has to tell them and promote what they want to do. But finally, of course, going to the protection of minority interests that we see in the publicly owned or the governmental communications mediums that we get. The government will obviously not only play programs that will be just political in its nature, it will also be able to play programs that it's now is supposed to impose on private televisions, especially in the countries where it's illegal to have public television and broadcasting companies. We're telling you that sometimes some interests of people are not being fairly represented on TV, whether these minorities are ethnic minorities that want to have a program that is being broadcast in their own native language, that is supposed to fight for whatever they have interest in. We also think that there's such a minority like school kids who could benefit from having who could benefit from having for instance documentaries being played on the TV. And we think that it's excellent for the government to actually have the option of, for instance, playing documentaries that are generally not feasible for private TVs to show, because the general public has no interest in them, so they don't really bring that big of a profit. And we think this is a great educational tool, having this sort of medium, whether it's radio, whether it's TV, or whatever. And we say that this is an excellent tool, and we say that this is a great way for the government to actually promote people who would otherwise be underrepresented in television as it currently is, or in whatever other form or medium of publicly informed people. So what have I told you within my speech? I told you that basically we have the problem of protecting the private market, the private liberal market, and also of protecting people's interests. We've shown you that in this model, people actually do get happier, and people actually do get more options, and people get better educated. So for these reasons, we beg to propose.